Hey everybody, it is me again, and this is the check-in with for the month of September. Can you believe it's already September? It's just so hard to believe, but this is the check-in with, which is the monthly live chat that I host with my good friend Charlie Red. We co-host together. And so for this month, and I see that Brother Red is in the building, so let me invite him up quickly here on camera. Chuck, let me know if you're able to join. It's asking me questions, so hopefully you're able to join. But in the meanwhile, for the month of September, again, we're going to be having a really interesting topic that we're going to be covering. I think it's very, very timely as well. And again, Chuck, I'm going to try one last thing here because it's asking me to accept you. Let's see. I don't know, Chuck. Can see their live chat. I'm sending it to you. So I'm going to try it again. You may have to leave and come back, brother. I don't know. I'm not sure. Let me try one last thing here. Okay, I just invited you again just to be on the safe side. Let's see what happens here. Okay. There we go.
There we go.
Oh my gosh. And I can see you.
Yeah.
Look to the internet gods, I can see you for the
Yeah.
first time in however many months now.
I know. I know.
Um, I did not jump into the good topic just quite yet, but I wanted you to maybe be able to explain, strangely enough, how we came up with this topic a year ago,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's somewhat timely.
Yeah. Briefly, I heard you heard the introduction, and
Hmm.
you're absolutely right. I guess we were prophetic, so maybe those six numbers would also be prophetic as well. But um, yeah, again, it's in social work we call this a miracle question. If you can do something, what it would it be that you would want to do? And
Right.
so we kind of morphed into, you're right, over a year ago about, okay, if you won the lottery, what would you do? And we've had conversations as though it's going to happen. So we've had several conversations, and ironically, we're doing this now, and now the Powerball is what, $1.8 billion. So
Billion
you
with a B,
with a
everyone.
B, yes. We
With
had
a
Michael
B.
Basin. Yeah, I'm seeing him on Facebook, and he's asking the same type of question. But again, we came up with this, over a year ago, and then even as recent as last month, you put out the promo. So that's when the lotto was still relatively small. So again, that may be a sign of something. But ironically, too, I was watching the news because now everybody's in lotto fever, and they were actually talking about that. A psychologist on, and the psychologist was actually talking about how even thinking about winning, and if you were to win, creates endorphins, etc., in your brain. So it kind of gives you a good feeling. So again, very very timely topic.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it interesting that the question that we posed was, if you were to win the lottery, what would your today look like 5 years from now? So we're projecting now into the
Yeah,
future. Um, and since I don't play, I doesn't mean that I haven't done scratchers here or there. It's been a long time, but I think I became jaded because I was like, when we were in Rialto, I'm like, okay, I'm going to Brownie's liquor store and I'm getting one of the scratchers, and I'm
yeah,
feeling good because I won $5 or because I won $10 because whatever I had put into it, I had made my money back double, triple, whatever that was. And so I don't know if I've ever played the lottery. I don't think I've ever gone in and gotten numbers and or just had them just give me whatever random. I don't think I've ever done that. Not that I can remember. But the other side of that, similar in vein, or a lottery adjacent. I mean, either way, it's gambling. However you look at it, if you think about it, ultimately. But I've definitely gone to like a casino or the casinos, Vegas, blah 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 blah, and I like being on the little slot machine. I like that kind of thing. It's fun.
hmm
But the reality is, just like to me with this lottery, it's rigged, and it's rigged in this case for the lottery for the state to always win. Or
always.
since this is a national thing, so the feds, whomever runs the lottery, 1.8 billion, it's rigged. I mean, they got to give some winning at some point, but they're not going to let it get too big. And 1.8 is pretty big.
It is.
That's pretty big right now.
Yeah,
So anyway.
but they say, again, they say, states win too. And so,
Hmm.
in Georgia, part of the whole marketing campaign was also to
Hmm.
show how much money is going actually into the school district and actually what it's spent on.
Right. Right.
So, again, it's six of one, half dozen of the other. You have to pretty much, kind of search your own soul and see what you're comfortable with.
Surely.
Um, and that's with anything, whether it be
Hmm.
gambling, drinking, etc. You have to basically know your own limit, um,
Absolutely.
and then hopefully follow through with that. So, but yeah, I mean
Hmm.
that for me, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the lottery. I know right now that's the hot topic, but it could be any way that you come into some sort of blessing, a monetary blessing. It could be a huge promotion on a job, or you to actually take another job, and actually what comes with that could be a significant pay increase. So, again, we focus on the lottery because that's what everybody can pretty much identify with, and the high value. But it could also be, you came up with a way to, I don't know, turn water into fuel,
Okay.
and something like that can actually be that your small invention can actually be turned into something very lucrative. So what
Hmm.
would you do with it?
Right. Now, is that a question you're posing to me
Yes, I'm
or?
posing it to
Oh,
you.
okay.
What would you do with it? So
Uh,
lottery, whatever, if you were to come into, and for anybody
sure.
who's watching.
Sure. Not to stray too far off topic, but I go back to the gambling thing, and specifically casinos, because
Mhm.
that again, that's something that I have done in the course of the past couple of years. Been to Vegas, a couple of times. Been to the quote unquote casinos here in the Kansas City area. Like I said, I like it, and it could be a little habit form. It could be very addictive if that's the case. My thing is it's the short wins. I never go into those circumstances looking to hit it big, and I think that's where I differ from a lot of people. That's probably why I don't play the lottery, because to me um, it's not anything that's realistic to me. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I couldn't go in and win $1 million in a casino, but the question that I'm always kind of posed to myself to remain realistic is how much did I had to put into that machine to be able to win millions of dollars? I have to be very realistic about what I'm doing. So, again, six and a half, one, half a dozen of the other, whatever you say. I hear that, but what would I do if I were to make some kind of, or get some kind of big windfall, financial windfall?
Mhm.
The short answer is something that's family related. So, again, you and I both have children. Everybody just remember that Chuck and I are just friends. Anyway, but we both have children
Yeah.
separate from each other. And it would definitely be something with regard to my kids, and making sure that they have some type of financial blessing from us. You know what I mean? And then obviously to pay off the mortgage, blah, blah, blah. Just the things to me that make the most sense. I wouldn't go out and do, although you and I have a birthday coming up next week, I wouldn't go out and do the midlife crisis thing
Hmm.
and go just buy a big whatever XYZ, because that's just not my makeup. You know what I mean? I definitely would bless my church. There's no doubt of that. I would definitely make sure that I take care of that. So that would kind of be the thing that I would think if I had any kind of financial windfall that came in, no matter how I got it, like you said, that would be the thing. I just kind of think it interesting that for us to have thought about this a year ago, knowing full well that I don't play it, but to have thought about it a year ago, would have never have assumed that by this day, this weekend, this month,
Hmm.
that the country is lottery fever,
Yes.
and fever pitched at 100.8 billion dollars.
Hmm.
I mean, how many people have to pay into this in order for it to be that kind of money, for not to have been any winners at all? And you normally see winners that have already hit in the hundreds, some of about a billion. And in this economy,
Hmm.
yeah, that's dangerous. It's
Well,
dangerous.
I mean, it is, and but that also goes to show you that, again, it takes a little from many people can potentially solve a bunch of problems. That can
Mm-hmm.
eliminate hunger in the country. So I mean, so we could do it if we chose to,
Mm-hmm.
but and sometimes we're as human beings, we do fantasize, and we would like something sometimes for nothing. Um, and so again, play the $2, and your chance of being a billionaire. So you have people who have spent their entire lives, careers, etc., and they will never amass to that amount. But it's the same thing when I look at professional athletes. My son's friend, he plays, and he's gone from team to team. But even the fact that he's not even a starter or a big nine player, he'll make more in 1 year than I'll make in like 10 years working. So, again, we there is some sense of imbalance, but at the same time, this is a free market, and we will pay for those things we choose to pay for. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I do have a funny like gambling story since you mentioned casino. When we were growing up, we used to go to Vegas quite frequently, and one summer I think we spent probably, I would say, 3 out of 4 weekends of the month in Vegas. Either my friend Sam Lamar, who you know very well, would go with my family, or I would go with his. Well, one particular time we were actually in Circus, and there was the Big Bertha, they called it. It was a dollar machine, and that's when, I'm dating myself because that's when you actually had to use coins. And so Sam actually put in a silver dollar. He pulled the lever. He's about 12. We're about 12 years old. He pulled the lever and he won. He won. I mean, straight jackpot. The bells was going off, the coins was falling out the machine and everything else. And we had to step back because, again, it was illegal for us to even be gambling. So he put the money in, pulled the lever, and we stepped back. And like I said, and, we saw the attendants come and everything else, and nobody standing next to the machine because we were standing off to the side. But yeah, he actually won.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much it was, but a dollar machine, Big Bertha, and he hit the jackpot. So
Mm-hmm.
it could have been 100,000. I don't know, but yeah, he actually won.
Well, the only question I would have, and whose family did you go with, or was both y'all,
Yeah,
both
yeah.
parents?
Basically, this particular time he was with me. He was with my
Okay.
family,
So,
but
so I'm
we were
just curious,
they
where was your mom and dad at? Like,
they're out
I
doing.
need y'all to go get somebody from out that room to come get this
I
money.
Yeah, they were out on the floor somewhere. So, but yeah, I mean, it was instant because all the lights and sirens and everything else went off. So it was instant. But yeah, he and I still joke about that.
Without even know how much. Isn't that terrible?
We don't know how much.
It could have been $10, whatever I won.
No, no. I can tell you that right now. A dollar, Big Bertha, and he hit the jackpot straight across.
Whatever that was, right?
That's whatever that was. I
Yes,
mean, again, that's again dating myself because back in the day, slot machines pretty much you only got paid for one line. Now you get paid for jagged and everything else, but one line across. And so he actually hit. So that's my funny casino story.
could have
But
changed y'all's lives.
yeah, it would have. It would have. I mean, if I
That's why I
would
was
have,
like, where Miss Ruth at?
I know, I know, I know.
Look, where they at? Miss
Yeah.
Red? Where at?
What also what I didn't know about Vegas too is again there's cameras everywhere, so
It's true.
they had to play that tape back.
Oh, yes, I agree with that, but I'm just curious if they would have held probably. I don't know. The house never wants to give up any earnings. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. That's terrible. I've never heard that before, so that's a first. Funny. I don't know. A part of me, I guess, is sitting and saying, when you said, speaking of casinos, I'm thinking, are you going to give me a Morongo, the one in San Bernardino, or the one that's in Capitan? I thought you were going to give me one of those Indian casino stories. Okay.
Hey,
Uh,
I wish I could have, but again, you and I, we've actually talked about this, and to be honest with you, um, I think you even asked me that miracle question. What is it that you want to do, or what would you want to be? And we had this conversation, and I said I want to be a philanthropist.
yes,
And one of the ways actually to be a philanthropist is that you have something in order to give something. So
absolutely.
I still have a philanthropic mindset, even if it's just $10 here, $20 there. But like you, I could definitely repeat it on camera. I would definitely. There's several churches that I would want to walk into, meet with the pastor, and say, "Hey, how much do you owe on this building? Pay it off." Or even in some cases, not even go myself, send somebody else, because I wouldn't be doing it for the notoriety of myself. I would be doing it because it's something that had to be done. But the biggest population, again, you and I've talked about this, is actually us. It's basically, I would consider the quote unquote middle class,
Hmm.
um, that might be dealing with a financial challenge, but they can still support themselves. But they're just dealing with this one crisis. So it might be they need a new roof, or it might
Right.
be the transmission went out on their one of their automobiles, or a medical bill. But if I could basically come somehow go in and be able to resolve that issue, I know they would be able to sustain themselves. So
Absolutely.
that would be my target market to be able to share
Hmm.
that blessing as you talked about with others.
Hmm. Hmm. I don't know. It's funny when I went back and I looked at the topic and I was saying, well, how are we going to approach this? I really didn't know. Other than to me, the obvious would be, to come on here and say, yeah, if I won the lottery,
Mhm,
I would fill in the blank. You
mhm.
know, I wasn't really sure what direction we were going to go in with this, because like you said, it could go one in many different ways, especially since it's not just lottery based. It's if you have a financial windfall, what would you do? Um, and what would your today look like 5 years from now? I think it's important to ask that question because a lot of people that have won monies have not been financially responsible. So that's a direction that we should really go down as well. If you were to win the lottery, and again, the fact that as of today, because I checked just like you right before this call, 1.8 billion. How much do you think that is after taxes? Because the government's probably going to take what 15, 20% or something
Oh,
crazy.
if they take half. So right now you're still
Easily.
yeah. So right now I think your take home would probably be around $600 million.
Okay, but that's still not it's nothing to cough at.
No, not at all.
And you said how much again?
It's like I mean I don't know. I'm just
No,
saying
no,
it's
I'm just saying.
around six because when it was like 1.1 billion, they were talking about the payout would be around $450 million.
Okay, but the reason I asked you to repeat it because I thought you said 600 something, not six
Yeah,
something. No,
no,
six
600.
hundred
Yes,
million. Yes,
yes,
okay. Still a very, very, very large amount of money. But
yes.
who's really going to be financially responsible? So when you ask me the question, that's why I said, are you asking me? I mean, you already know full well that first things first, giving all praise to God, I'm definitely going to make sure that I give God what he is due. It's his money anyway. So I'm going to do that first, and I'm going to pay the tithe I'm supposed to pay. And then from there, it definitely is going to be family. And then from there, it's going to be whatever else Will and I decide to do. Because that's still a great deal of money. And I would be hopeful that we'd be able to bless generations, not just the
Yeah.
immediate generation with our kids, even though
Yes.
we don't have any grandkids, but we just like to set money up, da-di-da type thing.
Mhm.
Would I keep working is another question that would be asked.
Mm.
Um, I know me and all the little sidebar things that I like to do, probably because I just enjoy doing certain things. Now, my 9 to 5, maybe not, but all of the sidebar things that I'm doing right now, from just all the many various things that I have interest in, quite possibly, because then I would have the financial opportunity to be able to fund some of these things that I'm trying to do. So what about you? Again, if it were to come and you were to get that amount of money, where would you go? What would you start doing? Because being financially responsible, I think, is something that we have to make sure we address. And then the next thing being is, would you continue working? And if so, what would you do?
No, I mean I wouldn't continue working.
Hmm. Hmm.
I would look at building an enterprise in terms of following my own dream.
Hmm.
Or again, counseling. I do have an LLC, so seeing how I can actually build that, being
Right.
able to help other people.
Hmm.
Um, so it still would be another generate a way of generating income, but I would
Absolutely.
come to be generated for that purpose. It would basically be able to generate to be able to give back out again, distribute
Hmm.
again. You can really never unless you just were a glutton. And Deion Sanders actually said it. Well, he said it best when, and I think I mentioned him before, when at the height of prime time when he tried to kill himself. Um, he pretty much said, "You are who you are. Money just exposes that."
Yeah.
So he said, if you're a whoremonger, you're now a whoremonger with money. If you're an alcoholic, you're now alcoholic with money. If you're a drug addict, you're now
Mhm.
a drug addict with money. So the only thing money does is make these things more readily attainable.
Yep.
And so you still, again, but at the core of who you are as a person, it's still going to come through. So for me, basically, I would love to give, but no, would I keep a 9 to 5 job? No, I wouldn't.
Hmm.
No, I would. My
Hmm.
my full time job would really be being a philanthropist,
Hmm.
looking for
Hmm.
those particular opportunities to be able to bless someone else.
Hmm.
Who again, looking at my target market, who again could be able to sustain, especially if they just had that extra little boost.
Right. But what about the financial responsibility aspect of it?
Oh,
So,
that's our. I mean, I've been blessed to know somebody who did come into some money, and she was very smart about it. And so the first thing, there's two people you have to hire. You need to hire an attorney, and you also need to hire a financial planner. And the thing about it is that would be my first call, would be to call her and find out who she went with and what the recommendation would be, because you'd really have to develop a team. The third thing that you would have to do, if again, depending on from state to state, and we're talking about lottery, for example, some states require you to become public, others
Mm,
don't. So
mm-hmm.
I don't know what Georgia requires that, but if you had to become public, then the next thing would be is that you'd have to uproot your family. It would be an inconvenience. um, you would have to move, and maybe I'd move to, I don't know, Oklahoma, and set up buy a couple of Dollar Generals or a McDonald's, and then people would know me from, oh, he owns the McDonald's. Have no idea that I got 300 some odd million still in the bank. But yeah, you couldn't stay. Um, again, the way news travels, you would have to be very, very tight-lipped in terms of even who you shared it with. And that's why I was saying there would have to be a middle layer, even in terms of administration, how the gift was distributed, not knowing that was coming from me, because it
Yeah.
could be very dangerous as well. And that's where, again, spiritually, you definitely would have to lean on your faith and protection and prayer, because if you got it, then other people feel that they're entitled to it as well. And what would they be willing to do? Whether it be kidnap an auntie of yours or cousin or
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's true. The root to evil, right? Or what is the saying? What is it saying? Money is the root to all evil, something like that nature.
yes,
There's got to be some truth in that,
yeah.
because people will go and do extraordinary things for wealth, not understanding what it really takes to, number one, attain it, because hard work, dedication, all the things you want to be able to say, uh, whatever that is to get there, right? But then to be able to
Or
hold on to it.
or even just even oh, I guess I'm saying, or even just a bright idea. I
Hmm.
was watching the news and they're talking about Elon Musk, and they were basically him getting 100 million shares valued at like 1 point something trillion dollars. Once
Hmm.
you start dealing with in terms of finances, even in my opinion, above a million, above $2 million now in this economy, numbers are just numbers now. I mean,
Hmm.
you can still only drive one car at a time. You could still only live in one house at a time. You still only could use one bathroom at a time. So there's still things that, again, you're limited in terms of physically what you're able to do. And that's why
Hmm.
I think purpose, being able to bless others,
Right.
in that way to allow them to fulfill some of their dreams, etc. And then hopefully it just continues just to, I could be negative, it could be positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'm going to take a second because I see that we've had some people that have joined us. Actually, Chuck, I'm going to hand it over to you. You go ahead and talk about what this is that we're up here doing.
Well, hey, this is our check-in. It's a monthly conversation that we have. My good friend Tanya Mason and I have every single month. And we come up with very interesting topics that we discuss, and this opportunity to bring others in. So this month's topic for September, we talked about it over a year ago, was if you were to win the lottery, what would your life look like now and even 5 years from now?
Yeah.
And what would you be willing to do with that? So that's our check-in topic, and it just happens to be ultra appropriate at this particular.
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm. It is so timely.
Yeah.
Again, especially coming from, even though I feel like you probably said it, because I wouldn't have thought this topic, because of the fact that I don't, partake, so I wouldn't have thought it.
Yeah.
But for you to say it was like, huh, well, that's a good topic. Okay, well, let's go ahead and put it on.
Well, I mean, I'm coming from a place of, I actually, and I laugh about this. Um, Probably about 5 occasions, I've missed pretty much winning by one number. I was either one number over or one number under. So if it was 30, the number was 31. If I had 17, the number was 16. So had I pretty much got a quick pick and chose above and below, um, this conversation would actually not be just a hypothetical conversation.
Right.
This happened 5 times. I mean, even as late as the last one, I got the Powerball number. got one other number, and I missed the other three by one number. Now, one, I was totally off. You know, it was like I had three and it was 13 or whatever. But that still would have been like, I think, $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's actually happened so frequently. I actually laugh at it. And I say, you know what? Because I don't have the well, I make the choice. I do have the means to play $1 above or $2 above, $2 below. But I could do that. But I actually find it very, very funny that yeah, that's actually happened on more than one, two, three, four occasions.
Mm. Tell me this, because again, I'm going to consider you to be the resident expert, because again, this is not my
Yeah,
uh, lane. So what happens when there are multiple people that hit these numbers?
they split it.
How do they disperse? How does that how does that work? I'm just
They
curious.
they split it. So if
Hmm.
the prize is, one point where a billion two people hit, then they cut that in half.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So, but it's evenly split amongst whomever has won,
Yes.
right?
Hmm. Now
So it
that's the
doesn't matter what.
now that's the
Okay.
jackpot. They still
Hmm.
pay out the if you get five numbers, you still get I think $1 million or $2 million or whatever. So yeah, that's just and if you still get like two out of three numbers, you still might get $14. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
but again, that's the way that the lottery is actually set up. But it
Hmm.
goes back to what I was saying before. This also goes to show, just like 9/11 did, when
Hmm.
those planes hit the tower, that basically drew everybody together. The Confederate flags came down. It
Absolutely.
wasn't about race. It wasn't about
Yeah.
economic status. We as Americans were under attack. We all
Yeah.
came together, and so
Yeah.
this is another opportunity just for people playing $2 here, $2 there, but so many people doing it that we actually could do some serious damage to some of our challenges that we have:
Hmm. Hmm.
poverty, cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I don't know if I would have equated those two together, but I know what direction you're going in as you say that about
yeah,
galvanizing the country that we live in.
uh-huh. Hmm.
Absolutely. I actually am looking at this and saying, this says a lot about the economy that we're in, the state of the country that we are in. This says a lot, especially financially. People have been living paycheck to paycheck for more than the past however many years. So there's nothing new to that. Um, but I would say, I'm just thinking about my own situation, and as blessed as I am, please don't get me wrong, very, very blessed, very, very grateful for the job that I have, that my husband has, da 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 da. But we're like everybody else, and we have our own hardships, and we have our own things. We all have bills, blah 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 blah. Um, but I'm just trying to think that if I were to win, and maybe I'm leaning back towards a financially responsible thing, and maybe because again I'm a Christian, so therefore I look at it slightly different. But if I wasn't a Christian, would I go out and just blow money? That would be my concern. It's like when you have these types of things and you're dangling this carrot, knowing that the caveat is you have a choice of what you're going to do with this money. You could be responsible about it and live long term with it, or you could run out here and just blow it. It's kind of the one or the other. You know what I mean?
But it goes
And
what goes back to what Dion said though. Only
true,
thing money does is exposes who you really are.
true, true. But what would that mean? Would that mean that I'm financially irresponsible with money? Is that what that would mean?
I didn't say
Okay.
it. I didn't say
Okay,
it.
okay. I mean, I try to be very good. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
And I can say that because I've been the lowest of the lows, and I've now been higher, so I can say that. But what I will say is it's dangerous. Again, just with the understanding of that statement about money being the root of all evil. I'm a firm believer that you just have to be very, very careful. You just have to be careful because, like you said, people, if they found out or blah 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 blah, there's consequences to it. There's a lot of consequences, and some people don't know any better. It's kind of like they talk about athletes, and I don't want to just pigeonhole and just say it's just inner city athletes, all athletes across the board. I don't care where you came from. If they start throwing money at you, especially if you come from a position of not having had before, but if they start throwing money at you, once you get to be a certain level, what are you going to do with it? And it's like you said a minute ago, and again, that's the responsible thing. Get you an attorney and a financial advisor. You've got to do that. If you amass any kind of wealth, and maybe that's what this conversation should have been about, is wealth and wealth planning. You know what I mean? And managing. Because if you ever are in that position, you have to know what to do with it. And it's almost like with you and I, when we get our paychecks, yes, we know we have bills that we automatically have to pay, and we've got, family members or whatever that is. But at a certain point, we also need to make sure we put a little something back for rainy day. And then we also need to make sure we pay ourselves. You have to be responsible. So when we asked the question originally, what would your today look like 5 years from now? My question would to you, as you were talking, was, how are you going to make your money grow? You want to be a philanthropist, and I can appreciate that, but how are you going to make your money grow to continue to be a philanthropist and to continue to give in whatever that capacity is for more than just 5, 6 years? How are you going to be able to have that money continue to grow and continue to make a difference over the course of the next 20, 40, 50 years, long after we're gone? So that's my response to you.
No, that's a very good question, honestly.
I come up with them every once in a while. Every once in a while.
And the reason why I say it's a very good question, it brings me to think about two things. You had
Hmm.
MC Hammer made it big, but he took everybody with him, and
Yes.
and God bless him, man. That's that dude. I mean, that's profound. I mean, that's profound, and again, sometimes it kind of equated to his financial downfall as well, because people will come to leech. So you have to have limits. So when you start talking about the question that you just posed, and I'm actually glad you posed that, because again, I come from the nonprofit world, and many of the gifts that we got when I was in the nonprofit world were endowments. And the way the gifts were given, say for example, I'll just make it easy. Say for example, Tanya, you guys give my nonprofit $1 million. Well, we're not giving you $1 million to go ahead and spend all million. We'll give you $1 million for you to invest that $1 million and use the dividends to help support the programs. So your core economic investment still remains the $1 million. You're only spending the interest that you received off the $1 million.
Hmm.
That's how you continue to do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's what I would do. Now, again, for the people, the individuals, that would just be the gift. But that gift is still coming off the interest of the investment.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's
So
good.
so again, even if I after giving it all out, I mean, heck, I again, you'd be one of them. I tell you, say, Tanya, what do you need to pay off? It's on its way. I'm just saying, Yanga, it's on its way. And so there's several people in my life that I've already decided, in addition to like to the churches, as I mentioned before, that I want to do. So that would be the initial. So right now you're going from 600 million. I'm down to about 500, 400 million. Take 100 million, stick it to the side, and that could continue to fund off the interest alone. That could continue to fund other projects.
Hmm. Hmm. Because that's something I don't know if people really think about. It's fine. And I'm glad that you said you would want to be a philanthropist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you've said that to me repeatedly. So therefore, I know it's true. You're not just saying it on camera. We've had many talks about that. And I'm prayerful that God really allows that to happen to you, that He opens up the heavens and blesses you with that because your heart's in the right place
Well,
and you're really.
let me stop you there, because I had to be
Mhm.
transparent. Originally, I've experienced some things that I thought was very, very unfair. Okay.
Okay.
And a lot of it was unfair based upon the fact that somebody's pocket was bigger than mine.
Hmm. Hmm.
And now I would have, if winning, I'd have the opportunity to give payback. And that's probably why I never won.
Okay.
I'm being honest. Oh, I would have crushed a bunch of folks. And that's probably why I kept missing it by one number. So
Hmm.
God worked on my heart. He had to work on. I had to work from the inside out. So now I had to let all that go. But that was really the first. Now it is actually to what can I do to try to pour into others,
Yeah.
and so that's why I kind of just had to stop you for a minute, because I had my own weakness. Like I said, what's in you will come out, and that was going to be an opportunity for me to crush
Hmm.
some folks. Payback.
Hmm.
I used to tell people, the Empire Strikes Back. The Empire was going to strike back. Payback was coming.
Well, the Bible says that God said that
Yeah,
vengeance is mine.
I know. Yeah, I know. I was gonna try to help him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna try to help him, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. I had to let that go. I had to let that go.
Well, I'm grateful for your transparency. Don't get me wrong, and God knows your heart. But I also know that the Lord that we serve would have never blessed you knowing that your heart was filled with that, like you said. And so there's a reason, there's a purpose, and there's obviously a season too. So
Mhm.
if he were to bless you, then that means that he had prepared you
Yes,
for that day to be
yes,
able to do his will and
yes,
not yours. Or
yes.
as you were saying earlier about, if I was able to do da 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 da, ain't nobody gonna be screaming Charlie or Tanya's name in heaven.
No,
They won't be giving no praises to Charlie or Tanya in heaven. So, that being said, I know that if it were to happen for you, then you would be prepared to know exactly the what to do. Because I wouldn't want to suffer the consequences of not doing it. So,
yeah.
different story for a different day.
And
Um,
because it doesn't necessarily. I mean, right now today's topic, we're really looking at the grander picture with a lot of money. But again, I know that you give out of what you have right now. So
mhm.
that's what I'm saying. It's that spirit of being able to try to look out for others, not looking for anything in return. So if it's $5 for a person who's hungry who needs lunch, or if it's 150 $200 for some child who needs school clothes, so it's just right now you just have more of an opportunity to do that, but the foundation has to already be there.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Um, it's interesting. And I'm thinking just as being a Christian, I'm just saying to myself, well, lottery, that's gambling, right? And Jesus didn't like gamblers, and he didn't want to see that, uh, in the steps of the house of the Lord, So a part of me is like, I kind of stutter, like, But there's another side of me that says, I literally, in my heart, I literally don't play because, again, I'm very realistic about that could be something I could be. It's almost like me, and for anyone that doesn't know me from years ago, I smoked for a long time, cigarette smoker for a long time. Um, which one of the Reds is this? Who's JJ? JJ said 1.4 billion. It's 1.8. We checked.
Yeah,
It's 1.8. We checked
yeah.
earlier. Um, but again, the one thing that I found out with smoking was, and I did it for a long, long time. The cost of smoking. I hated it, especially near the end. I'm sitting and saying, I got two kids. One was heading to college. The other one was already in college, and I'm saying, for this pack of Newports or for this pack of Marlboro shorts that I was smoking at the time, it's costing me on average. Newports was costing me back then $7. Marlboros was costing me about 5. And I said, I need to put this money up someplace else. I got other stuff that I need to be doing because I was a single mom trying to get these kids together, blah, blah, blah. Um, I'm a realist about so many things of my life, not because I had to be, but I had to be. And so for me, as I'm sitting and saying, I don't know if I would want to put my money towards lottery because again, when I had done it with scratch offs years ago, again, winning $5 after you've played $1, that's great. And you could turn back around and in our case, again, Brownie's liquor store, shout out Rialto. But at Brownie's I could be like, oh, okay, great. Now let me get an orange crush, and a Snicker bar or whatever, with my winnings,
Hmm.
versus okay, well it's only $1 and blah blah blah. Actually, I'm sitting here lying. The Lord just reminded me. I remember it must have been about 2 years ago. I went to Quick Trip. Do y'all have Quick Trip in Georgia?
Yes.
Okay. Went to Quick Trip. Anybody that doesn't know Quick Trip's gas stations, convenience store. I went there and I'd seen somebody in front of me playing the Scratchers. And
Hmm.
I said, huh, okay. I had Stephen with me. I want to say, or Will with me, one or the other. And I said, let me get some of those. They're like, what kind? I said, it doesn't matter, blah, 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 and I got different, 4 or 5 different ones, whatever.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
came home and it was just fun for us to sit there and scratch. And I think all total we probably won about $20 between all of them. I
Hmm.
was like, hey, that was kind of fun. Um, would I keep doing it? No, because when I tried to do it again at a different convenience store, Casey's, I doubt you all have Casey's General
No,
Store.
no, we
Okay,
don't.
different store, and I said, oh, I didn't win off these. My little money just gone. Money just gone. So I said, that's the reason why I don't do this because I know I just try to be realistic about it. So with all of that being said, there's a purpose for everything that I'm sitting here talking about with regard to why I don't want to give it out. I've got other things I could be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that it's not fun sometimes or da 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 da, but I would be fearful knowing my personality that it would become addictive because I
Yeah.
have that personality. I have
Mm-hmm.
that trait and it would become addictive to me. As a prime example,
Wow.
Will and I would go. I've probably taken Will to the quote unquote boat or the casino maybe 3 times in the 6 years that we've been here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 3 times. Okay. He and I've been to Vegas, obviously. We said the casino, and he's not really a gambler. That's not his thing. But like I told him, hey, look, I kind of like this one particular machine, and I want to go for this one machine because I like all the whistles and bells and all the things that it does, but
Yes.
it's addictive. And I remembered all of that coming from here to when we went to Vegas, because that's the last time we were at a casino was in Vegas last year. And I literally was sitting there looking and saying it didn't have that particular machine, but it had the sister and the cousins of that particular machine. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, see, I'm down here when my husband's upstairs asleep. I'm up early in the morning. I'm down here. I'm late at night while he's, watching. I'm down. Addictive. I can't do that. I'm like, I'm over here getting ready to take my credit card and go get a cash advance so I can. Dangerous. I know the personality that I have. I know them traits. Would not be a good thing for me. So again, there's a purpose for me saying, yeah, I probably won't be the one to be up here playing. But all of that to be said, what about yourself? And before you jump in real quick, I just want to thank everybody for jumping on. This is the check-in with, like my brother Charlie had said. At the end of the day, I am curious to see what all of you that are in the comments have to say about the topic, which again, as my brother had eloquently said, if you were to win the lottery, I think is what we said, if you were to win the lottery, what would your today look like 5 years from now? So, how good would you be with your money, I guess is what we're trying to say. So anyway, Chuck, what you got to say? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, again, you hit it on the head, and the key to your power is knowledge of self.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not trying to turn this into a philosophical conversation because again,
Do
this
what
is
you got to do.
we've had, but again, that's your power, knowledge of self, and so
Mm-hmm.
you know and be honest with yourself to say that might not be good for me. Um, it I mean, I tell people all the time. I say, if anybody sits there and says, "Oh yeah, I saw Charlie shooting cocaine in his veins," that's a bold faced lie. I hate needles, so again, knowledge of self. But I would pick up a Newport. I don't have the problem with drinking. I'm not a drinker. I mean, I can go months without even a sip or just do a social drink. And so you have to know which things that could entice you, which things would not. And
Yes.
even with the gambling, I'm glad you mentioned that. It was actually a funny story too. When I go to Vegas, um, I'll have my little $50, and I'll play the $50. That's it. When the $50 is gone, I'm done because I'm thinking 150, 250, 350. That's a phone bill. That's a cable bill. That's car insurance. Um, so that money can be spent on other things. Now, I haven't been able to master the smoking. Yes, I have decreased that because that's actually I use your example. Wait a second, because cigarettes now are $10 a pack.
Well,
So
if it was $7 when I smoked it, it was $10 in New York. So 7 here in Kansas was 10 in New York. So yes.
it's like 18 in New York now.
That's how
So
much?
you're like 18. So if you're talking about if you smoke a pack a day, that's $18 a day, or and make the math easy, $10 a day if you're in Georgia. So what could you do with $10 a day? That's $70 a week. That's $280 a month. So that's a
Yep.
used car. So again, even when you're looking at my philanthropic purposes, a part of that also would be to ask the person, not just giving them the economic boost to be able to pay off things, but also encouraging them to think for themselves, how could they sustain it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's financially responsible.
Yes.
That's not just you saying, here is just, I'd like to bless you, but let me bless you with some generational wealth, some knowledge to have generational wealth. Not just, in other words, it doesn't just stop with you. It's going to go to your children and your children's children and on down the road. And that's what I think that my hope would be in the conversation we were having. I could sit back and say the obvious, which would be, like I said, my church first, to make sure I give my tithes, da 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 da. Because again, I'm going to give God His money back. It's
Yeah,
His to begin with,
yes,
period. It's not mine.
no,
And then from there to be able to bless, my kids, and the fact that I don't have any grandkids, and they obviously don't have any grandkids, so it's for sure. You know what I mean? Anything short of that, like you said, then you start looking around friends, family, organizations, worthwhile, whatever that is. Um, I just don't know if, and let's talk about this too, especially since we're talking about 1.8 right now. Okay, let's imagine that it's 1.8 million versus billion, and really your get back is going to be in the hundred thousands
yeah,
versus millions. How far does that money stretch? Um,
yeah,
as
no,
a,
oh, but no, and that's a very good question.
I come up with some every once in a while.
But that's why I go back to the fact that right now you don't have 1.8 million, but yet you're still supporting people with back to school clothing. You're still supporting people with lunches. You're still supporting. So again, that's still relative.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's it's all relative. What you have, you're able still to give out of what you have. So it's
Right.
still all
Yeah. Um, yes. Look, yes, but that to me again goes back to, well, it doesn't matter. You're right. It's all relative. It doesn't matter the actual amount. It's what you're going to do with it. It's how you're going to go about it. You're absolutely right. Because I could sit here and say, well, no, if you had less of it, no, you still don't have to go out hog wild and act foolish with it.
correct.
Okay. Okay.
Correct. I mean, everything has levels,
Hmm.
and I say this because probably about I don't know 7 8 years ago we were furloughed when I worked for the state,
Yep.
and one of the things we used to like to do as a family was go to a Japanese steakhouse,
Hmm.
and it was like $100 to take five of us. Well, when you're furloughed, you don't have extra $100 to be spending like that. So we went from Japanese at Makata Steakhouse to Japanese from the mall at $7 a plate. So again, you adjust. Is
I
it
mean,
the same? Is it the same? No, but but, but you adjust. You make those adjustments.
well, and I'm laughing because I'm thinking, I lived in Japan for, 4 years. So to me, it's like, yeah, come see, come sai. Who cares? It's still Japanese food. Who cares?
Yes.
Go in there and get your plate and sit down someplace and be happy you got something in your mouth. How about that?
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because there's people that don't, and again, there's just one of the things that the news even do. I don't know if they do it out there as well, but they'll actually run these stories, and it goes back to the Bible verse I read this morning, and it was pretty much talking about three things: justice, mercy, and humility. And so, we even had a story. There was a lady, she was a veteran, and the homeowners association was going to foreclose on her house. She had cancer. She was going to chemotherapy.
They don't care. It's in the
Right.
bylaws. They don't care. It's a defined print.
So
It's signed up for.
$104 HOA fee, then turns it to 1,000, then 1,000 with interest and everything turns to 5,000. That's just a situation where I would say, you know what? Again, I wouldn't even do it myself. I'd send my son or somebody else. Go give this lady his check. I mean, justice, justice. So that's what I'm talking about. I mean, there's actually individual type of situations that you could have the means to be able to help support. And I think
Right.
about that driving. Sometimes I'm driving my old raggedy car and I pass by somebody sitting at the bus stop because that was me in New York standing at the bus stop. So again, life has a way of elevation and de-elevation, and you just adjust to it. But if there's something
Absolutely.
to do to help support somebody, then do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, but you also have to be of the right mindset, like you said. You have to move in the right spirit. And everyone does not, unfortunately, and that's a work. That's a work. So we're gonna continue to pray for them because that's a work. Because a lot of people are within their flesh and they're just selfish. We all are that way naturally, but it really is a choice to be gracious and to be kind. To be Christ-like. That's all choices that we make. Uh, So when it comes down to this money, most people don't want to give it. They're gonna hold on to it. And do I gotta? Do I gotta? But the one thing that you and I have talked about, probably since we were younger, especially you having been a Christian long before me, is the reality that you can't take no money with you.
You can't.
When you leave here, you close your eyes and you go to the by and by, that money ain't going with you. It's gonna be sitting right here. So guess what? So yeah, it doesn't cost anything to be kind. I just told somebody that recently. Like it really doesn't cost anything to be kind. You know, and actually it doesn't hurt either. Not just it doesn't cost, it doesn't hurt. It actually feels pretty good. So all right, all right. Well, again, I see we have some folks that are in our chat and that have been watching and have been interacting. Let's do some real quick shout outs, Chuck, if you don't mind. You probably have a better screen
I
of
know.
who's been in and out.
I saw my cousin Jackie. She's on Jackson. That's J Red.
Okay. Who
Yeah.
else we have? I see Awesome Ruth was in. Cute Teddy Lover. Dur Matthews. I'm not sure who that is. Kim Kim, and then our
Coach
sister
Erica.
Shanta.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, pause me at any time.
Yeah, Coach.
Jay Red, you just mentioned,
Huh?
and then I just saw another. I saw another Red. Who did I just see? I said JL Red. I said J Red. I think I said JL Red. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, we're here. Okay,
We
well,
here.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
Reds are representing.
Red's in the house.
Mhm.
Look, by the way, I'm out of Red. He wasn't interested in me, but that's okay. Anyways. I'll put it this way. Y'all may be his family, but I've known the man since 1976. I'll just leave it at that. So can you believe we're even coming up on 50 years?
Yeah.
I can't even believe that. That's deep. Oh, well, I'm going to leave that alone. Look, y'all have to go back and watch the old pause for the reasons being why he decided that. But we're not here for that today. But anyway. Um, well, I mean, it's good to know. Again, I've known you long enough that I know that I can say, hey, Chuck, I know that you would be good about if you did want something, blah, blah, blah. And with that, I would be gracious, although you would offer to possibly, say, hey, Tanya, da 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 da. But I would be gracious enough to say, but as blessed as I am, please be a blessing to somebody else.
that.
And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that.
I mean, you're again. I'm full of stories. Again, the good
You
Lord
full
is.
of stuff.
I'm full of stories. The good Lord has blessed me to be in all kinds of situations. So I have a story for almost everything. But the person to remain nameless, the one who I would go to if I were to win for advice with respect to financial advisor, lawyer, etc. Um, we were eating one day, and
Mm-hmm.
um, a pastor friend of ours, we all worked together, and myself and her, and we were by the Mercedes Benz dealership, and she was looking at this white S550. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. $125,000. I looked at the sticker,
I know
and
you did.
she said as we were riding back to the job, she said, "What if I were to come up there and say, give me three of those?" And and she went on upstairs into the building, and I was out smoking a cigarette. And I came on up later, and I said, just let me let you know something. I appreciate the generosity, but that's okay. I couldn't afford the maintenance on it. So, but it was good that she even thought of to say, what if I were to come back and say, give me three of those? And if I was in a position to, I would have humbly accepted it. In all
Hmm.
humility. I mean, it's. I still say it's better to give than receive, but sometimes if you're a natural giver, you have to
Mm-hmm.
sometimes learn how to receive,
Mm-hmm.
and
You
that's
do.
some of our problems. The people who are natural givers, that's what they know how to do. They don't know how to receive, um, and so. But again, I that's not something that I could even realistically, I could even afford the maintenance. So I was like, thank you for the consideration, but that's okay.
What series was it again? An S?
S550,
So it's a big
S
one.
class, the big one. $125,000 was on the sticker. Now, when we actually drove through where she's living now, and she opened up the garage, it was sitting in the garage. That's the same white one. Oh, it was. Yes, the garage door came up, and what was sitting in there? The white S550.
Just for father's sake, for anybody that's listening, um, I like Benzes. I'm just gonna say that. And so when you said that, I'm like, oh gosh. Well, and again, the other side of that for me is living within my means. You mentioned maintenance.
Yeah.
That's a part of me living within my means.
Yes. Yes.
Because if I don't have the means to maintain this, I could
Yes.
love that S series all day long.
Yes. Yeah. And
I,
again,
I
it,
don't.
it would have been a gift, Tanya, and then all of a sudden let something happen to it, and it's still sitting in the driveway. I can't drive it because I can't afford to maintain it.
Well, the other side too. Well, there's a lot of things that go along with that. But again, being gracious enough to understand in that set of circumstances, although I appreciate it, I'd have to respectfully decline. And I pray that you would bless somebody else with that type of blessing, whether it be the car or whether you want to take the money you would have spent on the car, whatever that is. But then what you just said a minute ago is pertinent to bring back because I am that person that gives, 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 gives because I love to give. You know, God loves a cheerful giver. Absolutely. I don't know any other way. I feel like my father was really a giver of all things,
Yes.
right? His
Yes.
time, everything, right?
Yes.
But the difference, God rest my father's soul, he did expect something in return. He expected some gratitude,
Okay.
whereas I don't. Remember, we talked a little bit earlier about doing something for nothing, and
Yes.
that's the spirit that I move in. I don't know any other way, and people have looked at me like I'm half crazy because of that, and I'm okay with that. Like I tell a lot of people, I'm just doing God's work, doing His will, and He tells me to move, I move. If He
Move.
says go and bless, I bless. If He
Yes.
whatever He says is what I do. Call it
Yes.
what you want to, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to be humble and obedient. But
Yes.
that being said, but I am one of those people that it's difficult for me to receive blessings back because I don't know how to receive it. I think it dates back to our childhood. You remember Lakita Garth,
Mm-hmm.
and shout out if Lakita ever sees this. But and I think I'm sure I told you this over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Back when we were probably, I don't know, it had to have been elementary. Lakita was talking to me one time over there by Frisbee, by her house, and she was saying, Tanya, I just love your hair because, the four ponytail thing or whatever, and having ponytails down here, down here as a young black girl, that was different back then. Shout out to my mama because she worked really hard on my hair. But anyway, but to have long hair naturally long hair as a black girl was different in the 70s. The point I'm making is I didn't know how to accept that compliment.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that comes back in my direction, whether it be limelight, whatever that is, I have a hard time with that because I just want to just do and then back up.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to give and that I'm just a natural giver. I'm not looking for anything in return. I don't need anything. I'm good. God knows my heart. I'm good. But that could be looked upon negatively. That could be
Yes.
looked upon as don't block somebody else's blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that
Yes.
because you're up here giving to us. Okay, great. Can we give to you? And I'm like, no, 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 no. No, don't block anybody else's blessing. So what you just said a minute ago, pertinent. If she would have asked and you would have declined, if she would have insisted, you said, hey, I would have graciously accepted it. I
Yes.
appreciate it. Even if I can't afford the maintenance, that sucker will sit. That's my weekend car. I'm only taking that out on Saturday and I'm going to take it to the car wash and bring it back home. I'm not going anyplace else with this because I know I can't afford to something to break down on it.
Yeah.
So
After 7 years, it only got 32 miles on it, huh?
come on. And
Yeah.
it's the gas, look, and it's the car wash that's the closest to my house that I know is about 5 minutes from here.
Yeah.
So that way ain't nobody gonna hit it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just running through there real quick and I'm gonna bring her back. I'm gonna put it back in the garage. For a shame, but it's true. It's true. Look, because this is classic. It'll be worth something someday, so I'm gonna make sure. Let's see, your sister Shanta had said, government takes the majority of the money from Powerball numbers. Yeah, we're aware of that. We will definitely help out get, what does it say? We'll definitely help out, gets children out of the streets. Yeah, providing homes for them and such. Absolutely. Uh, JL is rooting y'all. Come on, Unc. All right now. All right. Look. By the way, Red family, y'all gonna have to come out more often. By the way, Charlie, if you would, what exactly are we doing up here on this live chat today? What exactly is this?
I don't know.
You got your family on. You got to tell folks what this is, Chuck.
Okay, this is the check-in. This is a monthly conversation that me and my good friend Tanya Mason and I have every month. We come up with very interesting topics. Many of the topics actually are stimulated and brought on by the viewing audience. And some of them in the very beginning, because now this is going on 2 years, was also, um, I guess, was the brainchild, was the late Dwayne Vincent Harris. So, yeah. But, so yeah, this is basically just our way of conversations that you and I have all the time. We have to tone them down sometimes for this particular purpose, but this is a conversation that we have all the time. And so this is just an opportunity to let other people kind of be a fly on the wall about some of the things we talk about and be able to provide your perspective on some of these topics. So that's what this is. Welcome to the check-in with. How did I do?
I mean, I would have said it in less words, but yeah, you got it.
I'm a social worker. I'm
Yeah,
long-winded. I'm a
you got
social worker.
you got the crux. Okay, well, let's see. Let's see how we're doing on time. We got about 11 minutes left, something like that. What else can we impart to the good audience about this particular topic? Again, just the concept of, and let's bring it in. Let's narrow the scope a little bit. Let's make it about lottery winnings. Let's just make it about a financial windfall.
Yes.
Okay. Um, how should we close this conversation out about getting a financial windfall and what your life would look like moving forward? Maybe that's what we'll bring it into. What do you think?
For me, just like the example I used about Makata Steakhouse to Japanese at the mall, it would just be an expansion of what I'm already doing. And that's the only thing I can pretty much, say. Now, how that looks, I don't know, because it would also depend on what that windfall was. If I wrote a book, sold 1 million copies, it would be one thing.
Yeah.
If I sold 20 million copies, it would be another thing. So depending on the windfall, um, would be the distribution. But at the core of it
Mhm.
would be distribution.
Okay.
You?
Um, and I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. Uh, for a second, I'm trying to respond in text or in chat to your kinfolk for a
Okay.
Saturday of the month.
We could just say it. This is
I could have, look, I could have, but I was trying to be good about it.
yeah,
So that way I wouldn't
first
have
Saturday,
to kind of keep repeating.
yeah,
There we
first
go.
Saturday every 12
Gotcha.
p.m. Eastern time.
I knew you get tired of hearing me say. That's why I'm like, no, you could say it. Um, looks like one of your loved ones said financial sacrifices versus growth. Okay, maybe let's talk a little bit about that. I know you asked me, and I think you already know the answer to that. Ultimately, it really would just be about making sure that um, I'm doing the right thing by what God's telling me to do. I'm only going to move in that way. That's the only spirit I can move in. And He's going to guide me as to what I need to do and where I need to go and who I need to bless. Put it that way. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, but I like the question, and let's kind of maybe end on that note. Financial sacrifices versus growth. What are your thoughts about that? Now let me see who actually asked that question. JL Red. So who is JL again? You said, Chuck?
Jackie, my cousin.
Jackie. Okay. So, Jackie, if you want to tell us a little bit more about what you mean, if you want to elaborate a little bit on that, then we can go ahead and close on that topic. But until we get that, Chuck, are you going to play if you
I
had not already?
I have. Well, because again, like I told you the story. I actually got the number, and I got one other, and I missed the others by. So I got $4. So I took that $4 and just rolled it over. So
Okay. So you won.
I did $4.
Okay. 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 Jackie is saying no, she's J Red. Okay. JL is somebody else. All y'all Reds, y'all better come in here and tell folks who you are. I have no idea. You know. We don't have a whole bunch of Masons joining this call, so y'all can let us know who this is. But no, we appreciate all of you, absolutely. But I think it's a good topic anyway. Just to be again, just a good. Let me see if I can scroll back down to find it again. Financial sacrifices versus growth. Sacrifices. What would we be sacrificing versus growth? What do you think that she might mean by that, Chuck?
I have no idea because she's coming up as three different people. Jr. Red 22. Jr. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna try to speculate.
Okay,
Um,
okay. That's actually funny. Okay.
but um, let's see. Then I don't know if it's Justin. So I can't see the little picture. I see Jackie. At least
Right.
I see face, but I can't see the picture. So I don't know if it's her or it's my nephew. Um, but only thing I can actually gather in terms of being financial. Again, I think what you're talking about before, being financially literate and the sacrifices that you have to make. Um, yes, it goes back to what you said before about choices. Yeah, I can go and buy a small island. Okay, J Red nephew. Okay, so that's my nephew Justin's on too. So okay, we got Justin
Okay,
and
I
Jack.
know who he is. I'm like, I
Yeah,
know who he is. Okay, got it. Okay.
so
Yes.
you can make those sacrifices and again to be financially literate and like you said, not thinking about today but about tomorrow.
Hmm.
Or you can be irresponsible. It's your money. Take and go buy a small island.
Well, let's turn that back around because we talked about that a few minutes ago, which is would you continue working? The sacrifice. Well, no, absolutely. But the sacrifice you would be making by being, as you said, financially illiterate and irresponsible would be, okay, I'm gonna quit my job today and blow through this money only to have to go back to work.
Mhm.
Or let me be responsible in what I'm doing and let me get myself again an attorney and a financial planner and let me make sure that I have my money working for me, not against me. So that way myself and my family and generations of my family will have long-term wealth, generational wealth. That is something that I think would be crucial. So when you talk about making sacrifices, again, and another thing too, the payout with the lottery, if I remember correctly, you have an option to get like a monthly or a lump sum, right? Is that
Correct.
right? Okay.
Correct.
And maybe that's what we land our plane on here. We got about 5 minutes. And this is a question to the chat right now. How would you choose to get your payment if you were to win the lottery? In installments or lump sum? Chuck, what I pose that to you.
Lump
And
sum.
tell me why. Tell me
Lump sum.
why.
Lump sum. Um, because again, with lump sum, that's going to put it. Again, I know I'm going to be financially responsible. It's going to put the ball in my court, as opposed to over the course of. There's too many variables.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
what I would say too about being going back to sacrifice and being financially responsible, um, it would definitely not hurt to go to the local community college or university and take a financial literacy class. Because even if you're putting your money with financial planners, if you don't know what you're looking at, they can get you. So,
Absolutely. Well,
um,
go ahead. Go ahead.
so some of your athletes are doing that too. They're saying, no. As a matter of fact, one particular person hired one company to watch the other.
Well, it's almost like the conversation about 401s. I remember my dad telling me that years ago. And I just had that conversation with your godson, Stephen, a month ago, with regard to 401s and something I didn't know coming into being an adult and working a financial job, working an adult job, was when I had an opportunity to have a 401. It was the what it is that I could do and couldn't do. Um, I didn't know back then about stocks and bonds, even though my dad worked for a company that traded stocks and bonds or whatever, or Nasdaq or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know enough about it, and so I remember my dad telling me years ago, "Listen, Tanya, you're talking about 401, and I have this as well." At the time, I was probably early 30s, very early 30s, late 20s. He said, now the difference between you and I is that here I am in my 40s and I have to be a lot more cautious about what I'm putting my money towards. You're young and you have years to be able to regain and right. The ebbs and flows of the stock market. You could be a lot more,
Aggressive.
what's the word I'm looking for?
Aggressive.
That's the word he used. That's the word he used. You could definitely be more aggressive. Than I have to be a lot more conservative because I need my money now. I'm going
Yeah.
to need it sooner than you will. I
Yes.
just had that conversation with Stephen, and here you are. Here you and I are in our 50s, and I'm saying, Stephen, you are in your early mid, almost mid 30s. You could be a lot more aggressive than I can because he's also rolling over 401s versus me saying, I'm gonna need my money in the next maybe 10, 12 years. I need to be a little bit more conservative about what I'm doing. And to me, that comes back to this conversation. Being aware, understanding what you're dealing with. Because you just can't say, oh, I got a 401 and I'm going to let the company choose what they're going to put this money on. No, what are my options? I need to know. I need to be watching to see. I need to look at my statements. You're not just going to be just taking my money that I've worked hard for and putting it towards what you want to. How much am I actually yielding off of this?
Mm.
There's so many things that need to be asked, but I had to go through that to find that out. So anyway, I know that we have some more things that are being said here. Let's see. Cousin Jackie said, I agree. You don't know what the next month or so would be. So a lump sum, I get that. And then your nephew Justin sent NIL money. That's a whole different story for a whole different day, brother. Because we could talk athletics all day long up on here if that's the case. NIL was not even something that was even thought of, although people were getting paid money before NIL was actually legal, but that's a whole different story for a different day. And I don't know if they did it yet, but give Reggie Bush his Heisman back if they ain't done it yet. Anyway, fight on USC, fight on. Anyway, all right. Well, with that, we've got about a minute, brother. So let's go ahead and close this particular call. For those that don't know, and I'll say it this time because I've let Chuck say it in his way, and he's just used to hearing me say it. This is the check-in with, and this is the check-in with for the month of September. This is the monthly, in this case, live chat on IG. Notice I changed it, changed it slightly. But it's the monthly live chat that my good friend Charlie Red, who is posted here, and myself host every single month. In this case, we're doing it on Instagram. And we do talk about a myriad of topics and such, and today is nothing different. It just happens to be a timely conversation that we're having with respect to lottery. And if by chance you were to win the lottery, what would your today look like 5 years from now? So ultimately, we're talking about, what would you do with your money? What would that look like? So with that being said, Chuck, again, about a minute. What do you want to close with?
Wish me luck.
I'll be waiting for the phone call because I got, people on here that can say, well, he said. So I got witnesses that you're going to call me and ask me what my bills look like.
Yeah, I'm gonna call you, but I'm gonna disappear too. So if you don't need me on the check-in no more, yeah, it's kind of hard to do the check-in from the moon.
Okay, let me see how many of these reds are on here. Okay, I see a whole bunch of reds on here. I'm going to find you. Let's put it that way. On top of that, I know where your kids is at. I know everything. So there you go. All right, y'all. Well, this has been the check-in with. What did he say? What did Justin say? He did say he was sharing, brother. But here's the thing, Justin. I've known him longer. I've known him for almost 50 years. You're a little bit newer to this. So I'm just saying, Anyway, this has been the check-in with. Brother, as always, I appreciate y'all. Love you. Y'all, we appreciate y'all for tuning in.
All right.
You got the final word.
Ciao.
Ciao. There we go.